In this video, let's have a look on how to create custom shortcuts and how to use the Quick Favorites menu. First of all, let's press F4, go to Preferences, and under Key Map, let's change the spacebar action from Play to Tools. So when hitting spacebar instead of playing the animation, it will open up the toolbar over here. So if I now in sculpt mode press and hold spacebar, it will open up the tools as you can see. And then for example, I hover my mouse above the blob brush, then release space, and then this blob brush will be chosen as you can see. If I hold down spacebar, you can see we have also a bunch of shortcuts here, and some of them actually work when we go over, for example, the grab brush. So if I just press G for the grab brush, X for the draw brush, C for the clay brush, or Shift C for the crease brush, some of these shortcuts work. However, if I hover my mouse above these brushes here, we can see the shortcut, which is 2. And now if I press 2, nothing happens. Just if I hold down space and then press the 2 button, then it works, which in my opinion is super inconvenient to pick certain brushes which are important. So all in all, most of the shortcuts in sculpt mode at the current state are not usable. And I'm pretty sure that they will change in the future. So they might be improved, or there might be a better way to pick the brushes to like quickly change between different brushes, which we use often. However, we can also assign our own shortcuts. Before we do that, let me mention that in this course I will just use the default shortcuts. I won't change anything because I don't want to confuse you. And you can look up all the Blender default sculpting shortcuts and all other shortcuts in our Blender shortcut PDF, which you can find in the first chapter of this course. So now in order to assign your own shortcut, simply right click on something like the brush here and then click on assign shortcut, and then you can assign whatever you want. So simply press the certain key or key combination and then this will be assigned. In my case, I don't do that. And if you don't want to mess up any shortcuts here, there's also a different way to put all the important brushes and other tools into one menu, which is the Quick Favorites. So let's say there are certain brushes which we are using a lot. For example, the clay strips brush. All we need to do is right click and then click on Add to Quick Favorites. Same for example for the Draw Sharp, which I use a lot, and maybe the grab brush and maybe the blob brush. So you can add whatever you want. And then if I now in the 3D viewport press Q, you can see I have all these brushes here, which is of course much easier to navigate because you don't have to scroll through this long list. And especially if you have some tools which are down here, for example, if you use the Draw Facets a lot, add this to the Quick Favorites, and then we can quickly switch to this specific tool. You can also remove something from the Quick Favorites, either click on the tool itself, right click and then remove from Quick Favorites. Or if you press Q and open up the Quick Favorites menu, you can also right click here and then remove from Quick Favorites. And then the next time you open this up, this will disappear. And this will also stay if you close and reopen Blender. And we can also add modifiers. First of all, let's go back to object mode and now let's press Q and you can see the Quick Favorites menu is empty. And that's because the Quick Favorites is mode sensitive. That means if I go to sculpt mode, I have a different Quick Favorites menu than in object mode, for example. So in object mode, let's for example add the mirror modifier, right click on it, add to Quick Favorites. And now as you can see here, I have my mirror modifier. Meaning if I, for example, enable the horn here, press Q and then add this mirror modifier, this works pretty fast. Yeah, so you can add whatever you want. Also, if you have, for example, some tools over here like randomize transform, which don't have a certain shortcut and you don't want to apply something because you don't want to mess up all the shortcuts, then you could add this simply to the Quick Favorites menu and then this will appear here. So I find this Quick Favorites menu very useful, and this can be super easily adapted to your workflow because if you use something very often, just add it, and if you later on don't use it anymore, just remove it. One last note I want to mention here, if you, for example, set up certain shortcuts and you maybe messed something up and now you want to reset everything to default, simply go to the Preferences, press F4, Preferences, go to Key Map, and then down here you can find all the different editors, for example, 3D View, then we find Sculpt. So under Sculpt Global, we can also find the different brushes. Unfortunately, if we don't open this up, we can't see what brush it is. Here we see it's an inflate brush, and then we can set up the shortcut or simply press in here and set it up. And if you want to set it back to default, go down here and click on Load Factory Preferences. This, of course, will also reset all the other preferences. Yeah, and in this way you can set up your own shortcuts and use the Quick Favorites menu.